if you're getting into Bob Ross style wet on wet oil painting and you're looking for an easel, you could either get a really crummy one for like 10 or 20 bucks, or you could spend like a couple $100 and get like the actual genuine article Bob Ross easel. I didn't have a couple $100 and I couldn't really make it work with the cheap little $10 or $20 easel either. So I made one, and I'm going to kind of take you through a little bit on how I did it. All right, let's take a look at our easel. And the biggest thing that you need in an easel for this kind of oil painting is something that's very durable, very stable. You're going to be doing a lot of forceful motions with the brush if you're doing trees and bushes and that kind of thing. So you want something that's stable enough that it's not going to tip over or sway or anything like that. And if you have like a tripod style easel, one of those cheap aluminum ones that you get on Amazon, it's really not going to serve you well because it's going to be tipping over or falling over backwards. And if you look at the easel that Bob Ross actually used on public television, it initially was just like a stepladder that he kind of retrofitted with an easel onto it, and then essentially they built one kind of off that same design, but it's, you know, a four-legged stable easel that way, and it really can take a lot of force, and this one basically can too. So we have our vertical frame, which then is bolted into our horizontal frame that sits on the ground. This is all bolted and wing nut fastened together with washers. So all of this can come apart, so you can collapse it, you can store it, you can transport it. If you wanted to take this somewhere and paint somewhere outside of your home, you could totally do that with this setup. Starting from the bottom, I created 2x2 2x2 rectangular frame. I drilled holes on each side about an inch apart, not in any sort of uniform fashion, just kind of eyeballed it because I don't really do uniform. So basically what this allows me to do is the vertical frame bolts in here, and then there's 1x2 furring strip braces in the back. And right now I have this so it's completely upright, but if I wanted to kind of tilt this forward or backward depending on how I was standing and painting, I could do that just by adjusting the angle. Or if I wanted to, I could bring it forward a little bit more on the frame or backward. I have this fairly forward on the frame just to give me a lot of stability towards the back. I can really, you know, go at this frame and put a lot of force to it, and it's not tipping whatsoever. Now, the vertical frame is a prefabricated shelf frame, a wooden shelf frame from Menards. They have a narrow one, which is this one, and they have a wider one. And I just use the narrow one mainly for storage purposes, and I don't really do super wide canvases. I do up to 24 by 36, and this one will be more than adequate for a 24 by 36 canvas. If you're doing huge ones, you could build one that's wider. But this one is more than adequate for most sizes of canvas. So that frame is basically put together with these metal straps, and I took the bottom piece out, just removing the metal strap, so that I could drill my holes to attach the two frames together. I sanded the whole thing and rounded over with the sander also, just because it was very rough and I didn't want splinters in my hands when I was handling this, or to kind of nick the edge of a canvas or something like that. You can hand sand it if you don't have a sander like I do. Now, what I've done to the sides of this frame is I took 1x2 furring strips, I cut like little block pieces, screwed them into the top, and then the bottom, I don't have this going all the way down to the bottom, I just have it going to about this height, and then screwed 1x2 furring strips long pieces to create this basic channel along the side, and that's going to be a channel for my horizontal braces that hold the canvas up to kind of slide up and down, so I can adjust the height for whatever height of canvas I have. And then I also have this little shelf here that I built that also screws into this channel the same way. If I kind of take you around back, I'll just kind of show you real quick. I initially just had the bolt going through the channel and then coming through here with washers, but the washers were kind of bending as they were being screwed through here. So basically what I did is created these kind of like T-blocks out of 1x2 furring strips, so that I could basically have a little bit more secure connection here. And then with these T-blocks in here and the tension between these two surfaces, basically the bolt stays in place even when I unscrew this, and then I can just kind of pound on it to shimmy it up and down to fine adjust it if I want to. Before, when I didn't have these T-blocks, basically I'd just be kind of having to hold these bolts in, and I would lose them all the time. So just, you know, a quick little creation of these little T-bolts definitely helped a lot. As you can see here, the shelf is also screwed in here with bolts. I'll show you a little bit more on that shelf here in a minute. So now this bracing is tongue and groove. I don't know what wood this is, but tongue and groove siding. I'm sure you could get tongue and groove flooring, but I like the thickness of this wood. Now the reason that I used tongue and groove siding for this application is when I initially started painting and I didn't really know a lot about what materials to get for painting, I got a box of canvas boards. And what this tongue and groove allows me to do is it gives me this little channel to sit the canvas board into. Now, I don't use canvas boards anymore, but this allows me to, if I ever did, to use canvas boards. I would basically just reverse these two so the tongues would be facing into each other. I have the flat parts of these facing into each other now. So now I can actually put my stretched canvases and they just sit right here on the flat part of these braces. Now on both sides of the bracing, whether it's the flat part or the tongue part, I use these Cork Disks, and that basically just kind of gives me a little bit of a flexible seat for either the canvas board or the canvas. That kind of compresses a little bit. So if I put my canvas down and I lay it on the bottom brace, and then I take this top one and I shimmy it down to the very top of the canvas, and then I kind of press it down, and these Cork Disks compress to really hold on to it, and then I screw these to lock it in place. And this is all tension, but it's, you know, I can really crank on this and this isn't going to go anywhere. Just a couple accessories. I got a couple of clamp lights, so I can easily adjust these. I can kind of clamp these up and down, going down to the shelf on the bottom. So this is basically a shelf that I built out of 1x2 furring strips, and then I used, I think, like a 1x3 to kind of make the back a little bit more solid. So this isn't going to, this isn't really going to move too much if I had a lot of stuff on here. If I just had 1x2 in the back, it would probably be a little bit more floppy. So that's just basically a little structural thing. I screwed 1x2s across just for stability, and then I just used a piece of MDF, but you can use plywood or whatever to be the top. I laminated it with aluminum foil tape. If I wanted to, I could move this up. Basically, when I paint in a sitting position. So I have this basically as low as I can go on this frame. But if I was doing a small canvas and I wanted my shelf higher so I could stand, I could, move this up and down too. A couple other things that I did. So I have my bucket for my paint thinner, and I basically just kind of cut a hole out of the MDF. I kind of traced around the bucket and then kind of went a little bit wider around, just because this bucket is kind of tapered. And I also cut like little notches in here so that when I sit this bucket in here, not only does it fit in there perfectly, but then with the notches keep it from spinning around. And this is where I have my paint thinner and my little brush cleaning screen. A little tip for those of you new to Bob Ross oil painting: do not store paint thinner in this bucket. This is basically just for using while you're painting. I've read a lot of reviews online that said that if you put paint thinner in here and leave it in here, the bottom of the bucket can basically fall out. So this is just for while you're painting. I'll probably at some point make a video that shows kind of my paint thinner cleaning techniques and stuff, because I have a whole system for that as well, for what to do with the paint thinner after your session when it's all murky and full of paint, and how to clean it and reuse it. And I also put a couple of these plastic shelf rails, so I have these little storage shelves that I can put on here, and I have like little ones on this side, and that's basically a place that I can hold brushes or paints or whatever, just to give me a little bit of extra room on here. I'll show you this too. This is my wastebasket where my brush beater rack is. Now, I didn't get the official Bob Ross brush beater rack, not from a lack of availability, because they had them both at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. They were kind of expensive for what they were, so I just went to Menards and I got a little medium vinyl laminated metal cup shelf for like $2 or $3, and it just happened to fit pretty perfectly inside the bottom of this waste paper basket. Now, you're probably wondering what the hell this is. This is my palette, or at least my palette as of right now. I do have the plexiglass or plastic palettes, more like the ones that you see on TV, that you put on your hand and stuff like that. I didn't really like those. I wanted something bigger because I like a nice big wide working area for mixing paints and stuff like that. And I'm the kind of person that I don't really like to hold my palette while I'm painting. I just like to have it kind of nearby. So I wanted something big. I wanted something that's durable, that'll hold up to the palette knives and things like that while I'm painting. And so basically what I did is I took, and this is just a round glass tabletop. At Walmart they have those really cheap side tables that are basically round wood top and little spindly legs, and then you can get a little glass topper that you can put like a tablecloth on, and then put this on the top. So this is basically just a cheap $4 or $5 little glass topper. And what I did is I basically just painted the bottom of it white with house paint. I didn't really know what else to use with it. I had to do a couple coats because house paint on glass really isn't a good combination. At first, I eventually really got it to work. And then I put these little discs, felt discs on here, just so I wouldn't scratch this off. But basically, This is my big glass palette. This is great for, it's really easy to clean up. It's great for palette knives. I can really do a lot of good mixing and stuff. The thing about the plastic palettes that I found is that when I would really be in and mixing and stuff like that, I would find like little pieces of plastic in the mixed paint. I don't know if I was like digging at it too hard or whatever, but I don't have that problem with the glass palette. If I really wanted to, I can't, it's not light, but it's not super heavy either, and I can hold it kind of like a waiter's tray if I was really wanting to hold it in my hand while I'm painting. But, you know, so this is my palette of choice. I suppose I could also show you the tarp that I use. If you're doing this indoors like I'm doing it here in my office, which is carpeted, I don't want to have paint thinner splashing all over my carpet and stuff. So this, I just got at Harbor Freight Tools, is canvas, but it's got kind of a plastic or poly back to it, so that if it does get wet with a spill or something like that, or paint, it's not going to soak through into my carpet. And this was pretty cheap too, so this is definitely a good investment. And oftentimes too, if I'm painting, I'll actually just kind of clamp one around the back, just because, you know, just to protect all my other stuff from, you know, splash of paint thinner and even paint, like, you know, so if I'm, you know, smoothing a background out on my canvas, sometimes I would get like little flecks of paint kind of off to the side on my stuff. So if you can kind of keep one around you too, if you're working in a small spot like I am, that can definitely help as well. And of course, probably a big thing if you're painting indoors like I am in a small office. I don't really have it there right now, but I have a big double window fan in my basement window here, because the paint thinner, they call it odorless, but it ain't odorless. It's somewhat noxious. It's definitely something that you want to have good ventilation for. All in all, I'm very, very impressed with this easel. Probably all in is 20 bucks, I would guess. 20 or 30 bucks, all parts included. Maybe not the official Bob Ross bucket, because I think that's more, but the framing at least was really not all that expensive. And so hopefully this gives you some ideas to build one yourself if you are looking for a good solid easel for wet-on-wet oil painting. Feel free to leave me a comment or a question in the comments, and thanks for watching.